Has the Chicago Bears running attack finally come back to life? Has D'Andre Swift come back to slap me in the face and prove me wrong? And has Ben Johnson found the magic ingredients to take this Bears rushing attack forward? Join me on the other side. What is up, Bears fans? Welcome to your Chicago Bears Huddle. I'm Owen W. James. I am the host of this UK-based Chicago Bears podcast, bringing you the UK take on all things Bears. Guys, please hit that sub, ring that notification bell, and like the video to help build those hands across the pond to build our community from the UK to the USA. Right, we're going to talk rushing attack. My God. One of the two big things for me that come out of Monday night was the return to life of the Bears running attack. It really does seem that whatever was done through the bye week has proved to be effective. Whatever was done by Ben Johnson and his offensive staff has worked to bring that offensive rushing game back to life. Not only that, but I think the changes on the offensive line certainly had an impact for the Bears against the Commanders. Now let's have a little look at some stats, at some facts. In the game, the Bears had 381 total yards of offense. Not only that, 236 of those were passing, but the remarkable top line figure there is 145 rushing yards by the Bears. 6.5 yards per play offensively, 19 first downs, 3 out of 10 third down efficiency. Did allow 3 sacks, obviously, slight downside there. But one of those top headline figures there we look at, the Washington Commanders, one of the top rushing teams in the NFL this season. In fact, I think they were ranked first going into this game, had only 124 yards. The Bears outrushed them by only 21 yards, but still outrushed the Commanders on the night, which is a remarkable performance. I think if you said to anyone before Monday Night Football that the Bears would have more rushing yards than the Commanders, you'd have been carted off to a funny farm. D'Andre Swift had himself a day. He really did have himself a day. And perhaps I owe old D'Andre a bit of an apology for calling him trash the other day. Look, the jury's still out. Do I think he's the man? No, I still think we could improve. Do I think he did a better job? Yes, if he can maintain that consistency for the rest of the season, it certainly would help change my long-term opinion on the man. But look, I think certain things helped. The way the Bears rushed the ball certainly helped. The rushing lanes they took, the running lines they took, and also the changes made on the offensive line, I think had a positive effect on this running game. If we look at some of those top line leaders, Swift, 14 carries, 108 yards. Now, the impressive thing here is averaging 7.7 yards per carry. Very impressive indeed. No TDs, but he did have a TD, obviously, on through the air. But 7.7 yards per carry is very, very impressive. Kyle Monangai, 5 carries, 19 yards, 3.8. Kyle Monangai had an interesting role to play in that Bears running attack. He pounded it up the middle an awful lot. Kind of tried to take the strength, tried to take the energy, the gas out of that Washington Commanders defensive line to make it easier for others to run. I think he had a very effective role on the day. DJ Moore, 2 rushes for 10 yards. Roschon Johnson back, 1 carry for 6 yards, but he was back. Interesting to see Roschon Johnson getting the first carry of the season. Omid Zacchaeus, 1 for 4. Caleb Williams, 4 for -2. I think that was mostly down to the sack, but still a touchdown on the ground, which could have been a lot easier had D'Andre Swift actually hit his block properly. The big guy for me that made a big difference in this game was Theo Benedette. Braxton Jones obviously was ditched, benched, dropped. Thank goodness. The guy has been rubbish this season. Theo Benedette, the UDFA, was brought in and I thought did a sterling job at left tackle. Was he perfect? No. Did he make mistakes? Yes. But he still made, I think, a big improvement and a big change on that Bears offensive line and really did help bring that running game back to life. You know, you can kind of say, well, you know, it's a bit stupid to put down on one guy, but it does seem weird, doesn't it? We bring in Benedette at left tackle. We work a little bit more with the offensive line through the bye, and they open more holes. There's more rushing lanes there. There's more space to the outside as well through the action they do, you know, in terms of what they're doing on the line. You've got to kind of say it must have had an impact. You know, the change of the line must have had an impact. So all respect to Theo Benedette for the work that he did on Monday night. But in terms of that rushing attack, in terms of that work done, look, the big changes for me and the big improvements were the techniques the Bears used. Yes, they did open those lanes and those holes. for straight up running, but it was less north to south, less sort of east to west running. It was more get to the sidelines, get out wide, was used very effectively in this game. Now, I'm not saying that's going to work in every single game, but in this game, the way that they block, the way they open spaces out wide, certainly seemed to be very effective in getting DeAndre Swift out there and running the ball exceptionally effectively. Not only that, but the O-line opening those gaps. And one thing that kind of stood out a little bit as well was the fact that Dondre also, for me, kind of brought those extra yards after contact. He kind of put that bit of extra effort in, the legs working, a bit more power in there, and got those extra yards after his contact. Now, look, it was good. It was not the finished article yet. It was not... Look, I'm not going to sit here and say that the Bears have suddenly got one of the greatest running attacks in the world at this moment in time. That ain't the case. We all know that. We know it's a work in progress. But we're starting to see Ben Johnson start to get his running attack back to where he needs it to be. If you look back to his time in Detroit, one of the most effective things that he had to make that play action, to make his offense work in Detroit, was his 1-2 punch of Montgomery and Gibbs. Now, I'm not saying for a minute that Dondre Swift, Carmen Ungai, etc. are in the same league as those two, which they quite clearly are not. But Manungai's hard pounding style through the middle as a bowling ball, as a workhorse to wear out the D-line, clearly had an effect. And the different rushing lanes taken by Dondre Swift with the work done by the O-line quite clearly has been effective and is being effective. So there's things to build on there. And this has long-term benefits for the Chicago Bears. You know, if you go back over those first 4 games and you sit as an opposition defensive coordinator against the Bears, you kind of write off the rushing attack and say, there's no threat going to come from the Bears ground game. You know, that's non-existent. We don't need to worry about that. We just need to worry about Caleb passing the ball to all those offensive targets. Rome, Olamide, Zacchaeus, Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet, DJ Moore, Luther Burden, etc., etc. But now, bringing this, showing this, kind of having this start to click into place and start to work, and seeing the green shoots of recovery from the Bears rushing attack will make defensive coordinators start to sit up and take note of our defensive side, our rushing attack. It makes play action more effective and believable. It will help also, I think, with the passing game as well, by having that more effective run attack for the opposition, keeping the opposition on their toes. I think, you know, going into this game on Monday night, a lot of people would say, well, the Bears are pass heavy, they're pass hungry, they're going to do that more often than run the ball. We're now seeing an offense that's becoming more balanced, and the more balanced they can continue to get the offense, the better for this offense moving forward throughout the rest of the season. Guys, I'd love to get your opinions on the rushing attack. I know it's not perfect. I know it ain't finished, but it's moving in the right direction, which is good. Green shoots of recovery, definitely see them. Thank you for watching the Bears Huddle podcast. If you've enjoyed the content, please obviously like, comment, share, and subscribe. That's the big thing, guys. Sub, like. And remember always, bear down.